I was trying to think of, what would be a philosophical sounding thing to say about church.
What's funny is when I think about why church, in my mind, I'm hearing, why church? Because I don't like church. I don't like going to church. I never have since I was like a kid. I'm an introvert. A lot of people gathered in one space. Oh my gosh, I have to prepare for that.
I love prayer. I love pondering. I love reading the scriptures. I love going to the temple. And I often feel like I get more out of my scripture study on my own than I do from going to Sunday school.
Why is it worth the time and the hassle and the offenses and the slights? Why? Why church?
Obviously, you can connect to God on your own. You can go to nature. You can pray by your bedside. It's not the only place where we can encounter God. But I think there's something really powerful about encountering God together.
What do we mean by the church? Do we mean like a package of doctrines and practices?
We sometimes think of the church as the same thing as its doctrine.
Theologies and ontologies.
And that maybe makes it hard for us to accept the ways in which the ward experience imperfectly matches to those ideals.
I don't think that the church is an office building in Salt Lake City. I don't think that the church is a set of books and manuals or even doctrines and policies.
Do we mean an institution or do we mean the Latter-day Saints?
I'm not even sure that it's good to describe the church as a noun. I think we're probably better off describing the church as a verb, as an action. Church is something that you do, and it's something that you do collectively.
We are practicing becoming like God. We are practicing being the best version of ourselves. If I'm staying at home reading spiritual materials, I am so righteous.
The church experience for me is all those wonderful thoughts and ideas are great, but what is it like when the rubber meets the road? How do they become reality, be put into practice?
When I covenant in the temple to consecrate all that I have to the church, I'm thinking about to the Latter-day Saints who are all over the world in so many different circumstances.
I was in a Relief Society lesson recently, and the woman right next to me said, I come to church so I can be surrounded by people that believe and think and live the same way that I do. And I appreciated her answer, but as I reflected on my own, I realized that mine was the exact opposite. That I love the gift of coming to church so that I am surrounded by people that stretch me.
I think C.S. Lewis is the one who said it's really easy to be a Christian until you hang out with other Christians.
Increasingly in our world, I think we shrink into our chosen neighborhoods or professions or political parties or groups that affirm what we already believe and do. And I feel like church for me is really important, that I get to go and sit by and love and serve and be loved by people who are very, very different than I am.
If I only read the things I want to read, if I only have conversations with the people I agree with, then I'm only flowing myself down a very narrow path of God's children.
We're all tumbling down the same river, headed in the same direction.
There's a lot of grit and abrasion, and over time the rocks bounce against each other, they polish each other up, and they become very beautiful.
One of the things that makes community the most effective also makes it the most uncomfortable, in that we are close enough to people where they can hurt us. But we're also close enough to people that they can improve us and that we can help improve them as well.
Jesus gives us a beautiful description, I think, of what a church is in Matthew 18, when he says that where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, then I will be there also.
I love that there is a space where I get to engage and find ways that I can better serve and give them Christ through my connection with them. Church does that for me.
Knowing you belong is a big deal, and knowing you share in something is a big deal. The question of belonging is not always a straightforward one. What if you see things differently? What if your life experience is different? What if what seems to be admired and honored most is not what you are about or what your life has been?
We learn from each other when we listen to each other. And I think that church, and especially sacrament meeting, and also our meetings like Relief Society and Elders Quorum,
those give us those opportunities to share those bits of ourselves, but also to learn about other people and those complexities. And I think that's where we see glimpses of divinity, and we're able to really connect through those things.
The honesty helps people to feel more normal, more accepted, more loved. I can be with you and feel understood, even if you're different than me, but also not betray myself somehow in that effort to belong.
The pandemic church that we experienced, what's it like to not have to go? We got to try it, and it was awesome for a minute. I think we realized something wasn't right there. And then it got pretty lonely.
When we gather in Jesus' name, we're attempting to collectively respond to the world, to good, to evil, to loss, to suffering, to death, in the same way that Jesus would.
Jesus wasn't asking us to escape the difficulties of the world. He kind of threw himself into the middle of all of his society's stickiest situations, relationships, and conundrums, and kind of said, everyone is supposed to be here dealing with these really hard things. And that's why I think it's so hard to follow Jesus, because no one wants to do what Jesus did. No one wants to do that.
I can tend to maybe be a more eloquent expositor of ideas of Christianity, and I need to be a more diligent practitioner of the reality of Christianity.
Christianity as a religion is about bringing healing to people, bringing people to Christ, and bringing the power of the atonement into their lives, and that we can't and shouldn't imagine that the religious life is a solo act.
He's not saying, hear the word, stay in your house, and do your thing. He's saying, come follow me together. I want to do that. I don't know another way of doing that besides going to church.
Now, it doesn't mean that church isn't boring or that people don't say things that I'm uncomfortable with, but I have seen how God has taken the experiences that people try and share and the good works they try and do and make them holy.
I hope that I can get more comfortable with worshiping in groups, but I know that my spirit loves it. I know that my soul thrives in it.
And I think for me, that's at the heart of what church is. Church is this kind of collective action, this thing that we do together that makes God manifest and makes Jesus present.
When you make that commitment, you discover a kinship that feels like family. It feels as meaningful and as important as blood relation. It feels like a miracle.
At church, we have these very intimate, long-term relationships with other people. And we may always be kind of messing them up a little bit. But if we keep going to church, then we have constantly new opportunities to treat people the way that Christ asked us to treat our brothers and sisters.
Whether or not church feels like it is working depends in part on what problem you think you're trying to solve when you go to church. If I go to church trying to solve the problem of getting what I want, church is not going to be any good for that. If love is the kind of thing that I'm looking for, church is the place where I can find it because it's the place where I can do it. And love at the end of the day is not the kind of thing that you can get. It's only the kind of thing that you can participate in. It's the kind of thing that you can share. And again, that's not the kind of thing that you can do by yourself. It's the kind of thing that has to be done together, collectively. Church is the place for that.